Once again, we are back to you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us in another session of Tuntum Economic Lens. We have in the studio the young man who came the first time. He's here with us, Joseph Nimo, up-and-coming economist. He is still in the making. The man who has our former Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, as his mentor, someone he looks up to. Today we are going to look at a particular subject in the area of the cedi's depreciation, Ghana cedi depreciation. Ladies and gentlemen, he's here to share with us just a little bit of information on what he sees as maybe causes of why Ghana cedis continues to depreciate, the effect it's having on consumers, on our economy, on the state as a whole, and how people, ordinary people, may not be able to make things out as simplified as he may present to us. Joseph Nimo, you're welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you so much.
And I hope you raise your voice up. Joe, we are looking at the depreciation of the cedi, correct? So which time frame are we looking at? Is it currently or from when?
Okay, I think cedi depreciation is a subject of every day. So we will look at it currently and also previously as well, do a bit of comparison and navigate the way forward. Actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The Ghana cedi used to be called the cedi.
Yeah.
Okay, until John Kufuor changed it to the Ghana cedis.
Yes.
Took away some 4 zeros and made it the smaller version that we have.
Yes.
You think that is something that has helped this country?
Very well.
You sure?
Very much. Very
Explain
much.
that part to me.
Okay, I think we're talking about the issue of cedi redenomination.
Yes.
I think if we object to the idea of cedi redenomination, we are objecting to the idea of much bigger currencies being introduced to make keeping money a bit easier for us. Like Kufuor came and gave us 200 cedis note, 100 cedis note, to prevent the circumstance or the situation in which if you are having 100 cedis, you have to hold about 10 Ghana cedis, 10 pieces of 10 Ghana or 10 notes of 10 Ghana cedis. So if we are objecting the idea of cedi redenomination, I think it's not the best to do. And also I'll hit onto the fact that after Kufuor redenominated the cedi, I thought there was even a song that he didn't change value. He didn't change prices. He just gave new figures to us. You get it? So it was 40,000 that he was saying that it is not 40,000 anymore. It's what, let's say, 4 cedis. So he has just changed the value, the name, but not the value of whatever particular money we are talking about. So there was a song that, what do we call it? Dokno is still 50 pesos. Dokno, you are buying it 5,000, is still 50 pesos. I don't know if you are quite familiar with that particular song. So I disassociate that particular action from the fact that he, changed the value, but rather figures.
I have a different opinion on that.
You have a different opinion. Inflation is inflation, and it comes as a result of mismanagement of the economy. So we can't actually blame inflation on Kufuor's redenomination. That's a very I don't know the actual word to use, but that's not to be done. To blame inflation on redenomination is not the thing to do, actually.
Okay, it's simple and easy for you to say that, but I have a different viewpoint. I think what Kufuor did should have been Ghana's second chance in changing the trajectory of Ghana's economy. But Kufuor himself, after doing that, he missed the opportunity. Now, if you look at recalibrating our cedi into the new Ghana cedis and moving 4 zeros away to now have 10,000 Ghana cedis becoming 1 Ghana cedis, and 1 Ghana cedis at a time being more powerful or more valuable than $1, Ghana could have done so much with that exchange rate we had at the time. Take, for instance, This is what I always say at people who love John Kufuor. There was a time when I used to love him a lot until I had to reassess everything that happened in that era and said to myself, if you do this, if you change the currency, you remove some zeros, and now your one cedi is more valuable than $1, what stopped you from investing in all the things you could have bought? In terms of, let's say, even if he chose to invest in agriculture in Ghana, if he wanted to buy a machine that was worth $200,000 at the time, that would have been equivalent to about 19,000 Ghana cedis. With 19,000 Ghana cedis at that time, he could have bought a machine worth 200,000 or 20,000 US dollars in America at the time. Because when he did the changes, $1 was less valuable than 1 Ghana cedis. Hold on. And instead of him using that opportunity, what he created to sort of bring in all the things that we would have needed to transform Ghana's economy, it was only a matter of changing the currency and doing nothing afterwards. That was the era when we went through a program called HIPIC. That was the era when our debt was cancelled. That was the era when there was a lot of free money coming to Ghana. And then our currency was changed. And then our currency all of a sudden became stronger than the US dollars in terms of the equivalence. And yet we didn't do anything with it. It is like the same missed opportunity J.J. Rawlings had, where he took over power for like 19 years continually, and he didn't do much with it. So Kufuor literally had something like that. And I don't know what Kufuor did with it, because if he really wanted to invest in, say, medical supplies for the country, medical supplies, and the medical supply was sold, say, $10,000 or $100,000 for one machine, all Ghana needed at the time, because our cedi was more valuable than the dollar with the 1-to-1, all Ghana needed was to get 99,000 Ghana cedis, and we could have afforded that same machine. That is the problem I have with the Re-Denomination. I feel even though he tried and he did well by doing it for this country, ultimately we didn't put it to use. It was of no use at the time when we could have done so much. All the agricultural machinery we could have bought, combined harvesters. I mean, many things we could have done with that exchange rate. Nothing. Then we realized he was almost out of power, so a new government had to come in. That is my issue with the problem with Re-Denomination. But when it comes to inflation, I feel that the Re-Denomination also has helped in how Ghana's inflation has spiraled, has gone up. The reason is because when you take away 4 zeros, all the items we used to buy within that 10 to 40 value, all the things we used to buy with 1,000 Ghana cedis, 500 Ghana cedis. I'm not talking about this current 500 Ghana cedis. 500 cedis at the time. All of those things were easily pushed away. Prices automatically began to change. People were no longer, because there was no coins made for, say, like, I don't even know how to put it. Before, we used to have papers for 100 Ghana cedis, not Ghana cedis, the cedi. We used to have coins for 50 cedis, not 50 Ghana cedis, the old one. We used to have coins for 10 cedis, and they all meant something. They could be used to buy something. But the moment you move away all the 4 zeros, the very small things we could buy initially with all those different currencies, not currencies, coins or paper notes that we had at the time, it immediately went away. And then, because there were no coins for it anymore, and then we had to transition into a new phase where everything had to now start with 1 Ghana cedis. 1 Ghana cedis became like the lowest of all our currency. That is like, no matter what the price used to be, now we can buy it at 1 Ghana cedis. No matter what the price used to be before, now it is almost equivalent to using 1 Ghana cedi to buy it. That is what actually transpired. So immediately everything moved to the 1 Ghana cedis, and gradually even the 20 pesos moved to 50 pesos, which now we don't sell pure water for 20 pesos anymore. That is my view on it. I think the redenomination had a serious effect on our inflation because of some of the notes and coins that were lost in that transition. What do you say to that?
What I say is that, taking careful time to listen to you, I have really navigated through your problem, and I identified to be related to Kufuor's poor performance. Because in your statement, I heard you mention the fact that he created an opportunity, but couldn't utilize the opportunity. Taking that statement alone, I say that the cedi redenomination was an opportunity.
Of course.
So we shouldn't blame it on the policy, but we should blame it on the managers or the implementers of the policy. And I think that is my point, actually, that the problem is not, as we were arguing the other time on the act to be reviewed to favor 24-hour economy. The problem is not the act. The problem is the executors. So in this case too, the problem is not the policy, the cedi redenomination, because it's an opportunity. The problem was the managers who implemented it and could have utilized the opportunity but failed to do so. So I think we shouldn't blame the policy that much. As you said earlier, or as you earlier indicated, we should blame the managers and those who actually implemented it. But taking into consideration the cedi depreciation we are on today, I'll give a brief review.
Go ahead.
On that. And I will say that we can't define cedi depreciation without the word value. Value is important. And when we are talking about value, we are talking about buying and selling. Market. So there is a market for a certain commodity. And in that market, we have a price. And that price is what we call the value of that particular commodity. So in the money market, we sell money too. We sell currencies. Currencies are being bought and sold to facilitate trade among countries from maybe different continents, without those euros and stuff that are having some continental similarities. We trade currencies. So we buy cedis, we buy dollars, we sell cedis, we sell dollars. And the bodies or the institutions responsible for this particular trade are the central banks of countries. So when we are talking about Ghana, we are talking about the central bank, which is the BOG, Bank of Ghana. When we are talking about America with respect to the US dollars, we are talking about the Bank of America and all those central banks. They trade these currencies. In addition to the Forex Bureau, the Forex trading and stuff, we will get to them at that place. But they are also the managers of those platforms. Now, when we come to Ghana, the noise we've been making with respect to depreciation always revolves around dollars. The cedi is falling against the. You don't hear euros, you don't hear pounds, you don't hear Chinese yuan and stuff. You just hear dollars. But before we dive into those, let's hit on the dollars as it being the public concern. Now, we buy dollars so that we can use dollars to trade outside the country. That is it. Now, the dollars are in stock over there. You need dollars to go and buy something from America because you can't use cedis over there. The right thing to do, maybe you visit Bank of Ghana or any place you can buy, you can buy the dollars they have in stock to sell, like the Forex Bureaus and stuff. Now, you go there, you present your cedi. They will tell you the value of the dollars. Currently, it stands at 15.40. So you need 15.40 to buy $1, which is the value of the dollar against the cedi. And this has been causing alarms due to the fact that the value of the dollar against the cedi is always appreciating than the value of the cedi against the dollar. Meaning, you need more cedi to buy a dollar, and you need less dollars to buy a cedi. Because one cedi is equivalent to less than a $1. In fact, 0 point something.
But the question people want to actually ask and have answers to is, what is causing the value of the US dollar to constantly rise against the Ghana cedis?
Yes.
Are you going to respond to that part?
I'm going to respond to it very perfectly. Now, I say that in economics we hold on to this, that we say all other things being equal, the higher the price, the higher the demand, the higher the price. The lower the demand, the lower the price. You get the point? The lower the price, the higher the demand. Let me quote that again. The higher the price of a commodity, the lower the demand of that particular commodity. And in this particular market, or in this context we are talking about the currency as a commodity that we can trade. So if there is limited in stock, what causes the price to rise? If there is limited in stock but more is needed, and there is no doubt to the fact that Ghanaians need dollars due to heavy importation, high importation. We import almost everything in this country. So there is going to be pressure on the limited dollars we have at stock. And therefore, to reduce our purchasing power, to reduce the amount we have to buy or we can buy, the price needs to increase. So at any point that the Bank of Ghana or the BOG sees that if we maintain this price of the cedis, we are not going to get the necessary or the required amount of dollars to supply, we increase price so that we reduce consumers' purchasing power, and they will not be able to purchase what they are supposed to purchase. If I have 10 sheets for sale, and I know that if I am selling one for 1 Ghana cedi, you can buy 10. And if you buy all the 10, this man may not be able to get some to buy. So I will have to increase the price to reduce your 10 cedis purchasing power, so that although you have 10 cedis that you could have bought 10, but as a result of the doubling of the price, you can buy only 5. I will reduce your purchasing power, your income.
Is that a smart economic policy?
That is a necessity.
No. Do you think the action of Bank of Ghana in trying to limit the number of people who have the ability to buy by increasing the value of the dollar, do you think that is a smart thing to do?
It is a necessity.
I didn't ask whether it's a necessity or not.
Necessity.
What I'm asking is this. You know people want to buy more. You are in charge of regulating the value. Your job is to look at how we can get more dollars in the system for the people. That should be one of your major occupations. So that at every point in time when people want the dollar in the system, you have it available. But when you are on your own, not doing anything to get in the dollars, and so when people come to you, you are in handicap. You cannot supply as much dollars as they would need. That is when you use some of these tactics. Why don't you rather engage in enterprises as BOG, where you are in a position to get more dollars? Take for instance, whenever China talks about their national reserve in dollars, their dollar reserve, it always blows my mind. Currently, it is, I don't want to get my figures right. China has more than $4 trillion of reserve for trade purposes. The Central Bank of China. So that whenever the Chinese businessman is in need of dollars, the central bank can provide. We don't need to move numbers. So you stay in China for 10 years and one Chinese yuan and one US dollar, one Chinese yuan is maybe $6. It has stayed there for like 10 years and the government has deliberately kept it there, which means the Chinese government even has the ability to knock it down further, but they love it that way for business purposes. Why can't BOG play same game where they are also involved in enterprises where they are able to get in as much dollars, whether they are going to trade gold, I don't know, whatever they have to do, so that they can get in dollars for businesses to use in doing transactions?
The fact is that it is only one simple solution: reserves. If you have the reserves, they will give you the dollars and take the gold. But the question also is, do we have it? It was Kufuor that just recently started buying gold as reserve, but even for that one, we didn't know the head and we haven't even been updated on the team.
By the time they were leaving office, we were told we had about 8 to 8.7 tons of gold, which is very small, but it's a good beginning.
No, very small cannot be a good beginning for an economy in trespasses like this, because if they go and exchange that reserves, it can't even last us for anything, and it can't last us for even a time they can use to mobilize another same value of reserve to go and exchange for another one. It can't. So the solution is get more gold, and the leading, or I don't know if it's a leading or the second or the third leading exporter of gold, is struggling to get reserves. Another issue.
In Africa, we are number one.
Yes. In fact, I really struggle to talk about that, and we need to get time on that. That the leading exporter of gold is struggling in reserves to exchange for more dollars and sell to its people. Cause for alarming. So, in fact, all these things put together puts Ghana at a very, I love Mahama for saying this, Ghana's economy or Ghana's management is a crime scene, and we need to investigate it. But anyways, he is in power now, so let's check it out, what is going to happen. But coming back to our issue, because of this, Ghana is really struggling. Our cedi is losing value against the dollar. And this is having a lot of impact. But let me do a bit of comparison before I continue and commend the Mahama administration, at least. According to the BOG January 2025 Summary of Economic and Financial Data Report, the cedi lost 2.06% value against the dollar, counting on a month-on-month value loss from December 2024 to January 2025. Commendable for the Mahama administration, starting its administration from 7th January to the end of January. It was commendable. Compared to Kufuor's November to December, that was about 19.2%. Kufuor's era, the cedi kept on depreciating like boti falls.
I thought you said your mentor was Bawumia. Hold on. And if I remember, and I remember clearly, Bawumia was head of the economic management team. And your mentor is Bawumia, and you are just mentioning Kufuor. Why are you not referring it to Bawumia, the guy who was actually put in place for the economy?
The fact is that, in fact, this issue that was raised, we need to get time and settle on it. I can give you a bunch and a list of reasons why I wouldn't say he didn't perform to make it look like I'm supporting his non-performance. But in fact, there is a tangible reason, and a reason that needs the attention of the people. But just that he was not in a position to explain, because you can't.
How?
Let's leave that hanging for a very in-depth.
It is easy for people who couldn't perform to come back with excuses. This is the common thing done everywhere in the world. Yeah. I couldn't perform the job that I was given. After my term of office, now I come back and it's excuse after excuse. Don't you see how easy it is to come raise some legitimate reason as why I couldn't do X, Y, and Z?
Sometimes if you listen to it very well, it is not an excuse. Sometimes it's not an excuse. It's not all reason. It's a reason. Sometimes it's a reason, not an excuse. So that is why I said that if we get time to bisect this, we will be able to fish out the reasons from the excuses. There is an excuse and there is a reason.
Okay, so let me ask you this. In the past administration, what do you think were some of the reasons why the cedi was fastly depreciating?
Because MPP couldn't utilize effectively all their almost 90% of their manifesto. If they had, Ghana would be booming by now. They couldn't. Good reason. During your era, mining was able to grow Ghana's economy vehemently. Gold was contributing about, for 2024 alone, $5.2 billion to Ghana's economy. But most of them, we lost the revenue due to illegal exportation. And even if we mine to get the gold, we need to spend the revenue back on the community because the mining is not a responsible mining. So anytime the economy or the system becomes stagnant because we reuse and even more than we get to be able to bring an area devastated by mining back to normal, it's somehow not possible. But even if it's possible, it's not easy. You have to reinvest more than you got from the land or from that property. So I think that, in fact, Kufuor's policies were out of lane from what he told us. He couldn't utilize them effectively. An expenditure administration, a corrupt administration, in fact, everything that has to do with the downfall of an economy was characterized by the Kufuor government. And that, without that.
But Bawumia is not involved in that?
Let's get time for that. Let's get time for that. But
I wonder how you are able to distinguish or separate Bawumia from all that when he was an integral member of the MPP administration.
Very well.
I'm struggling.
In fact, you will struggle until we get an in-depth analysis on this. And I will really find time to break it down for you. In fact, very soon, I will really find time to break it down for you. And we are going to do it and do it better. Now let's get into the impact of this cedi depreciation really well. This has a lot of impact. In fact, even the ones that we learn in textbooks that are positive impacts are still negative impact because we learn that cedi depreciation or currency depreciation attracts investors who want an economy with a low currency so that when they come in to change their currency, they will get more money and get. In fact, that is even a disadvantage. So even those we were learning in textbooks that we classified as advantages are still disadvantages. Let's take a look at the negative impacts. Firstly, on the side of the government. Now, we are talking about an economy that has external debt. Debt, we are talking about borrowing and domestic debt. So we have foreign debt and we have domestic debt, which is the bonds, the treasury bills and stuff. But I think we have an in-depth session on that with external debt and domestic debt. Let's take the external debt alone. It constitutes 56% of our total debt stock. Our total debt, which the last time I learned was about 500 and something billion cedis. 56% of this constitutes foreign debt, meaning we are owing this debt to foreign countries, foreigners, and we need not to pay this debt in cedis. It has to be in either dollars or the currency of whichever country we borrow the money from. And servicing this debt, in debt servicing or the term debt servicing means just paying the debt. Paying off the debt, if we are owing this debt in dollars, we need to change into dollars before we submit the money to whoever we are owing. whether IMF, whatever, this current $3 billion bailout we are taking, whenever we are paying our loan, we need to change into that particular currency we borrowed from, or the person or the institution or the government that gave us the loan lended us in. So Ghana is about to service our debts in dollars, or pay off our debts in dollars. We need dollars. What is happening to cedi right now? 15.40 to 1 cedi. Let me read a report to you. An IMF report, 2024. It says that Ghana spent 40 billion cedis to service external debt. And do you know the equivalent of this 40 billion cedis? It's $3.4 billion. Check the difference. 40 billion cedis to pay off $3.4 billion loan. What could have happened, or what surplus could we have gained? I'm not even saying let the cedi be 1 cedi to $1. Just even 5 cedis to $1, it could have saved us 50% of this money, more than 50%. But we used 40 billion cedis to pay off $3.4 billion loan. It's a burden on the government. It's an impact, it's a negative impact of depreciation on the government, and needs to be looked at in a critical lens.
Now, the solution which many times I've prescribed for government on my show, which it looks as if government is not very interested in, is government of Ghana going into mining. And I have given the reasons why we are at the point where the government must own a state mining company, because that is when we'll have a real backing for our Ghana cedis. It looks as if the government is not interested. I've been saying this since last year. Before the campaign for the elections, I was shouting on top of the roof, Ghana government needs to go into large-scale mining.
The question is, what happens to their personal interest if they do that?
No.
What happens to the MPs that brings in foreigners to give them lands in their constituency?
That will not be affected. Remember, Ghana has gold in almost 14 out of the 16 regions. So if the state wants to start gold mining, they have to target maybe 1 or 2 places and set them up there. The rest of the land is still available. The idea behind why government of Ghana is not really looking into doing a gold mining business is where I don't get. Because if we get into it, this whole idea of surplus and reserves and all of that is easily resolvable. You have gold. It is mined by you. So your cost of mining is not so much. It is in your custody. At this point, the price of gold is skyrocketing every day. It's over $90,000 per kilo. Over $90,000 per kilo. And you have this opportunity to mine your own gold because there is so much gold in the land, and then use them to trade for the currency you want so that you can sell it to your people at the price you want. You don't want to do it.
Sometimes you just, in fact, I really sometimes admire those who maybe may not want to even listen to this. Because sometimes if you know these things, if you know the right things to be done and just see them right at our doorsteps, but still we are suffering, it sometimes can even drive you crazy. Seeing all this gold, all these reserves, natural resources gifted to Ghana with this currency depreciation, why? Why should it be so? Let's look at this second, impact on the government. And it really funnies me. It says it hinders government's ability to fund critical sectors such as education, infrastructure, healthcare, stuff. And this is obvious. We are spending $40 billion just to service our debt. Where are we going to get the money to invest in our education sector? Where are we going to get the money to finish Agenda 111? We spend the money where we are not supposed to spend. And we leave where we are supposed to spend due to corruption and improper or mismanagement of funds. All state institutions are just embezzling funds anyhow, just how they like it. It's not good. And at the end of the day, we fail to finance or fund these critical sectors, which are very detrimental to the economy and the well-being of the people. What are we doing as Ghanaians? What are we doing as managers?
Do you have hope for the current administration?
Oh, I have. In fact, I have hope for Ghana. I believe Ghana will be better one day.
Under this current administration?
This current administration cannot do anything but to lay a solid foundation. 4 years, the problems we are going through. It depends on this government. Even
why do you think 4 years is not enough?
If he is not able to achieve it, I understand.
Do you know when Ibrahim Traore came to Burkina Faso? That was around 2022.
Yeah.
Do you know the achievements he's had since he came in?
He's laying a strong foundation.
No, he's literally building the country.
Right now.
Hold on. You have a government. You have the numbers in parliament. There is nothing that stops you.
Yeah.
So why is 4 years still not enough to do much?
I'm not saying it's not enough. It's not enough to make Ghana far better off.
No, not far better off, but we need to use this 4 years
to build a solid foundation.
I don't like the idea of solid foundation.
Mahama himself made a statement on is it BBC Africa or so that at least we have to start 24-hour economy. The question was posed to him that 24-hour economy is not achievable under 4 years. He said we will start. Mahama admitted to the fact. So me, I don't expect a fully better Ghana with 5% inflation, 10% inflation.
Do you know why? Do you know why you are struggling, or you are thinking it is not startable in the first 4 years?
It is startable.
In fact, I think the 24-hour economy can be started this year. All government has to do is to be interested in state or state enterprises.
And this same government is just postponing, even presenting the policy to parliament is just postponing it until further notice. We don't know, indefinitely. So let's just take a look at it. But me, I don't expect a far better Ghana from this. I expect a solid foundation, at least a foundation that...
Ghana is not at the point of just building foundations. Ghana has grown, no?
We've grown.
So this idea of every time we are building foundations, every government comes, oh, the previous government messed up so badly, we are now building the... Don't you see that is the rhetoric? If John Mahama moves and a new government comes, that is the same rhetoric they will use. There has never been a point where one came and said, the foundation is already laid, we can build on. Every time, the foundation is not built. What kind of foundation, what kind of building are you putting up?
In fact, it all bounced back to our politicians.
But I don't want you to use that phrase, because you are dancing to that music, that we will build a strong foundation. That is the same thing Nanado said when he took over from Atta Mills, John Mahama. Yeah. And that is the same thing Atta Mills said when he took over from John Kufuor. When Kufuor took over from J.J. Rawlings, he said the same thing.
You see the reason why I'm very, very much upset with Kufuor, with the vote he gave. It was a Kufuor that gave Mahama 2024 his votes. All his votes is a Kufuor that gave to him. With the vote he gave Mahama, this Mahama that we knew in 2016, that Ghanaians rejected massively in 2016, came back to get these votes. So we see that the problem is not Ghana, the problem is our leaders. And until we see a change in our leaders, we will continue building onto the notion that at least we need a better start. We need someone to boldly build a strong foundation. We've not gotten that part.
There you go again with this building this foundation thing. You can't stop, eh?
We need it.
After 4 years, you still sit here and say, we need somebody to build foundation.
That is because that is the reality, and I must say it.
No, let's move from building foundation. Let's move to, we need someone to come in and say, okay, in my 4 years, I'm going to start the biggest maize farm, biggest tomato farm, biggest processing plant for tomatoes, biggest processing plant for maize, biggest chicken or poultry farm, biggest gold mining company in Africa, biggest cocoa farm in Ghana. We need somebody to come and do that. That is not just foundation. You are building the farm, you are building the the processing plant, and up to the packaging, everything. And that is how it should be. Everybody comes, they are talking foundation, but they are looking at something else. How can you be talking about building foundations when there is no connection with state enterprises, when there is no connection with you directly getting involved in the processing business? Then what kind of foundation are you building?
I've been citing, with my time with you, I've been citing capitalist economy, socialist economy stuff in your conversations. And I think we will need to really talk about that.
I am of the view that if Ghana will develop, Ghana will have to go 60-40, where 40% of our economy belongs to government and 60% is for the private sector. So 40% socialist, 60% capitalist.
I hope and I believe the time or the day we will get time for that capitalist and socialist. You may have another perception or another point of view.
No, I hope you will come prepared.
Okay, let's put it that way. But
we have to wrap up.
Yeah, let's move on to the third impact on the government, which is high cost on the import-dependent projects, like a whole parliament importing chairs, costing billions or millions. It brings that particular burden. Agenda 111. It will interest you to know all the equipments we are going to use in those hospitals, if they are completed, are going to be imported. And with this 15 cedis to $1, it is going to be very expensive. And that is actually a burden on the government also. Let's move on to the impact on corporate sector and the large businesses. And this really bounces to cost of production. That's all. Cost of production. It is really disturbing these companies with respect to raw materials. Cost of raw materials to aid their production are growing on daily basis consistently, going as faster as Usain Bolt. They can't stop it. Let's look at what's this? Unilever. We all know Omo, soap, Blue Band, Lipton, and stuff. They experience a 14% increase in the cost of raw materials. Should I tell you the season just for the fourth quarter of 2024, which is the fourth quarter should be from what is the ninth month?
September, October, November, September.
No, October, November, December. That should be the fourth
October,
quarter.
November, December.
3 months, 14% rise in the cost of raw materials. In fact, if we are saying this percentage, we should really teach the people how to calculate these percentages and they will know the actual value. In fact, if you are watching me from home, how to calculate percentages or rises in, just divide the percentage we have stated by 100 and multiply it by the actual price and see how much of the actual price which is being added to the actual price, and you will get shocked.
We have to bring it to an end at this point.
It's a whole lot.
There is a lot we are going to discuss on this platform. Every time we come, we'll pick a topic and we'll do justice to it. Yeah. Thank you very much, Joseph Nimo, our young up-and-coming economist, a very believer in Baumia as a mentor. That part I will not stop saying it.
But you know, my man in MVP will surprise you. Just that I may not disclose it today, but will surprise you.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you very much, guys. We'll come your way with another one.